Yeah? Oh, yeah, Mom, I know. I love you too. Mom, Mom, I gotta go. I will. Okay, I love you too. Yup. Bye-bye. Huh. Hey there, scary story fanatics. Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. Sorry there, but it's always nice to hear from family. Older members always seem to tell the best stories. Speaking of tales passed down by elders, watch your step and prepare yourself for Follow Me to Rock City.
Something's been bothering me for a long time. Well, not bothering me per se, just has me curious. I can't help but wonder if it's still there, still sitting, waiting in the cold, dark shadows. Sure, I would just go and check, but if I felt brave enough to do that, I would have done it years ago. I was 12 when I did it, and back then, I lived on a hill. On this hill was a road with many houses, but the school bus would only stop at the bottom. This meant that every kid on the road had to walk down the hill/road to the bottom to greet the bus. The mornings were never that bad, except for the chilly winter mornings, and it was always getting dropped off that sucked. See, the road was graded at a steep incline, and since I lived about halfway up, I was half dead by the time I reached my door. I did find myself pitying the unfortunate few who lived in the last few remaining houses towards the top. One person I did not pity, however, was the kid who lived only 2 houses down the road from me. My apathy towards him was not due to his proximity to the base of this small mountain road, nor did I harbor apathy for him. I hated and generally feared him. Jesse Kowalski. Jesse was not only the school bully, constantly in trouble for fighting, but also the bully of the hill. Each and every morning he would terrorize me, or one of the other kids, pushing them around and trying to get them to fight. This kid had some serious anger issues. I mean, I remember when I was really little, like 5, and he would nail cats to trees and cut their heads off. He was the biggest boy on the hill, making him a scary thing to deal with each day, a disturbed 15-year-old lunatic. Naturally, anyone who would indulge Jesse and fight back, Jesse would just pummel the poor kid. He took lunch money and kids' video games. His parents drank, so he didn't live under any sort of discipline. Most mornings, I just prayed he didn't single me out, awaiting the hasty arrival of the cheese wagon, aka the school bus. The greatest thing about living in this remote location was the large amount of land my parents owned. Nearly 100 acres of forested mountainside, an enchanted wonderland for my preteens. Most winters and early spring, I'd stay indoors, the ground having given way to something to only be described as sticky muck following the spring thaw. But late spring, the duration of the summer, and much of the autumn, I would spend a ton of time traversing my parents' land. Up till I was 11, I would mostly explore, pretend, and play aimlessly in the woods. No place in particular in mind, just a method of child's play in the acquisition of personal development. My older brother, Adam, would occasionally spend time with me, playing football or shooting play guns in the woods. This usually ended up with me getting hurt, as he was always a bit rough with me, but at least he took the time to spend with me, and I always appreciated it. Anyway, when I was 11 years old, Adam and I were taking a walk on what he called the pavilion. He was headed away to college the following day and was up for going on a hike. The pavilion was a spot in the forest, much higher up on the mountain slope than any road, besides some old logging trails, and sparse of any trees in about a 60-foot diameter, surrounded by forest on all sides. When I was much littler, I simply presumed that they had all been cut down in this area, but on that day, my brother Adam, completely nonchalantly, without any intention of producing fear, simply told me that no trees grew there. When I asked him exactly how he knew this, he pointed out to me that there were no tree stumps or any other remnants of pines or maples anywhere to be seen, only grass, and even that wouldn't grow very tall. This was news to me, but this isn't what sparked my interest. Once there, Adam told me about the times he spent up there in the woods with my older brothers, already moved out of the house. Jimmy and Chuck are the two oldest, only a year apart, but Jim being the oldest, never letting Chucky forget it, even to this day. He said Mom and Dad would take him and the other two when they were little, before I was born, to a place called Rock City. I had no idea what he was talking about. I imagined a place in the woods with houses and huts made of stone, and abandoned lost civilization I had yet to discover. Hey, I was only 11. He described it as a carnivorous rock face, dotted with holes and chutes in the ground at the top that led to larger openings at the bottom, like natural tunnel slides. I immediately asked if he would take me to go find it, and he did. Well, he tried. We left the pavilion, climbing closer to the summit, and wandered all around the woods for a few hours. Every few minutes, Adam would say, "Oh yeah, it's this way. I'm sure of it." But each and every time he said it, he was wrong. We never did find Rock City that day. I asked him why they stopped going there, why Mom and Dad never took me there. He responded with a story about bad windstorms and everything filling up with sticks and earth, clogging all the caves and wrecking its majesty. I, of course, believed him, but I now question his honesty. The following day, Adam left for college, only to come home on holidays and visits during summer breaks. I would keep up my search for the elusive Rock City for a much longer time. It was after one of those terrible days of my 12th year that my efforts would finally pay off. Jesse beat me up one day after school. To this day, I cannot for the life of me remember why, only that it started with a punch to the back of the head when I got off the bus at the bottom of the road. When I turned to attempt fighting back, the bus simply pulled away, as a kid who was both bigger and older than I was started pounding on me. Laying there, hurt, defeated, and my pride removed. He spits on me, says a few nasty things about me and my family, and walks away. None of the other kids wanted to get involved, and I can't say as I blame them. My mom tried to ask me what had happened when I came home, and I dropped my things in my room. But I left her questioning as I stormed back out the door. I wished Adam was home. Still in high school. Jesse would never have been able to do anything to me like that if Adam was here. Thoughts raced through my mind, and my face ached as I began to trek up the forest trails towards the grassy pavilion. I didn't care when I'd return home, or what my mother thought of me. I had even pretty much given hope on finding Rock City, and kept on the old logging trails that wrapped around the horn of the mountain, lateral to the pavilion. When the trail ended, I climbed up over some trees fallen in the way, pushed through some overgrowth, and just kept walking. Deeper and deeper into the woods. I had actually walked by it, only by a few feet, but with all the crap in the way, I nearly overlooked it altogether. A steep incline to my right, leading to the base of a small cliff face. At the base, in the face of the cliff, almost as if it had been carved out that way, was a divot in the rock, big enough and resembling one of those hanging egg chairs, but large enough to seat 3 people. I crawled up the incline, having to traverse more fallen trees and resulting deep holes, but managed my way with relative ease. Upon inspection, the smooth surface of the inside of this small hollow spot in the rock still seemed as though it had been carved or worn away, likely by water. It was smoothed down to a near polished finish. Dust like sediment still lay in piles at the base of shelves that served perfectly as a seat. It was when I stood up to leave that another depression caught my eye, and when I turned to inspect what it was, 3 more instantly caught my focus. It finally hit me. I had found Rock City. My heart began to pace faster, and my focus on my pummeled face waned. I spent only a few seconds looking into each spot before noticing 3 more and left in hopes of checking them all out. 7, maybe 8 caves I looked in. Most were shallow, some too small to even explore, but 2 or 3 big enough to duck inside and travel back in a ways. No matter how hard I try to forget that last cave I checked, I can't. I still have nightmares about it. It was a dark opening, black and beckoning for exploration. It was large enough for my 12-year-old body to enter with barely a duck. There was nothing at first. Maybe the faint trickle or drip of distant water, reverberating off the long, smoothened walls, but no real discernible sounds. Rather, the sounds of the outside world, birds and chipmunks, echoed deep into the cave. But the further I went in, the fainter they became as well. The world around became black as pitch, and the only noise left were sounds of my echoing footsteps and my breath. It was when I was just about ready to turn around and head back that I heard it. It sounded out, echoing off the walls around me. My ears now pricked, I listened intently to the black beyond that seemed to swallow both light and sound. I knew then that I should simply just start running away. My legs and arms immediately began to tremble, but I was also strongly curious and decided to hold my ground and answer back. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I listened for what seemed like an eternity for a response, and I eventually got one. That is when I decided it was time to leave. In fact, that is when I found myself wishing I had turned to run the first time I had an inclination to do so. I fumbled and did my best to run from whence I had come in the dark, unable to see anything. Is this why Adam stopped coming to Rock City? I thought to myself. It wasn't long before I saw the soft glow of sunlight from beyond the cave, but I was also hearing the approach of odd sounds in the dark behind me. Whatever was in here was in hot pursuit of me. I saw the entrance emerge from around a corner as I rounded it, and in my excitement, I failed to notice the large stone in my path, causing me to trip and fall just feet from the exit. I heard the scuttle of something right behind me, and I turned my head, ready to shut my eyes in terror and wait for inevitable death at the hands of whatever monstrosity that desired to devour me. A raccoon. A simple, cuddly, chittering raccoon emerged from the darkness at my feet. I had grown up with wildlife and had no fear of a small, furry, cute raccoon. I admired the creature and chuckled to myself at my foolishness as it scurried right by me and towards the exit. I began to shake my head as it was about to exit the threshold of the cavern's maw, and it grabbed it up. Something, cloaked in the shadows on the ceiling, just reached out with one swift motion and grabbed the chittering coon up, and with a snap, the chittering was silenced. Paralyzed in fear, I watched something unnatural, with unnatural movements, reposition itself from the ceiling to the wall on the right just before me. Its body was still covered in an inky black that would not reveal detail, but its silhouette now presented me with an image of its form that I still cannot understand. It looked as though it had 4 appendages, but each jutted from a solid black form at the center at the sides. Each one stretched out long, bending downward at the joint to the surface of the wall, only to continue on and end in the darkness concealed by the shadows of the caves. Then, 2 glowing red eyes emerged and moved, as if the head turned to face me, before an audible noise emanated from its direction.
I said come here.
I crawled backward into the darkness, having nowhere else to go, and once I was confident that maybe it could not see me, I cowered against the wall in the corner, praying to God that it would not find me. When I leaned upon it, I fell backwards onto my back. I had found a small alcove in which I could hide in. It wasn't deep, and only big enough for me to slither inside. But that's what I did. Every sound sounded like a symphony. I could feel the beating of my heart. I was certain that I was done for. And that's when I felt something grab my foot by the sneaker, dragging me backwards out of my hiding place. The rest happened so fast, it's like a blur. It reached for me. I know that because I had a large claw-like scratch across my face. Maybe I somehow heard it when I hit it, or maybe it had gotten behind me, giving me a clear shot to the exit, but somehow I managed to fight it off and get out of the cave and away from that thing. When I returned home, I didn't find the need to explain anything to my mom. I mean, who was really going to believe me anyway? She presumed the cuts on my face were the result from the fight I had gotten into earlier that day, but I knew better. And now, my wheels began to turn. The following day, I put up with the taunts at the school bus stop, dealt with the comments in school, and the bullying on the bus ride home. But one thing I knew that no one else realized. I may have been smaller than Jesse, but I was also much faster than him. So when I had gotten off the school bus that afternoon, I purposefully picked a fight with Jesse. Nearly twice my size, I soon found my motivation to run. I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but I know it was about his mother, and I know it really pissed him off. That kid followed me all the way to the edge of my parents' land. He chased me after onto the side trails that led to the main trails behind my parents' home, at the edge of our property, below the driveway. There was even a long stretch of time where we both lost our ability to run and both started walking. He was always right behind me, about 50 feet or so, and no matter how scary and maniacal his expression became, I never let him gain or lose an inch. Past the pavilion and around the horn of the mountain, I led him deeper and deeper into the woods, making sure he saw me duck into the cave I had so desperately tried to escape from the day before. I crawled in, rounded the corner into the black, and found the crawl space I had found the other day and slithered myself inside, this time facing out. I didn't see him. I couldn't see a thing in front of my face, but I'm sure I could have licked his boot if I wanted to when he loudly passed right by me, fumbling in the dark and calling out my name in a taunting fashion. Jesse's last words were nothing but a set of blood-curdling screams and shouts for help, echoing off the walls in the dark amongst the noises of flesh being torn and bones breaking alongside them. Nobody ever found Jesse. Police and rescue groups kept at it for weeks, but never found a trace. No one ever seemed to suspect me, or suspect that the memory of Jesse's echoing screams in the black caused a grin that I couldn't seem to lose for months. I don't know whatever became of that thing in the dark, or even what it is. I never went back after that. But if you're looking to dispose of something you never want to be found, try the remote forests of the Appalachian Mountains. I'm sure that thing, whatever it was, is not the only one.
That Jesse, what a bully. Kids like him should be made to chew on their own words and behaviors, but something else ended up chewing on him instead. If you found this story finger-licking good and crave more, stop back in again next weekend and learn the pitfalls of reliving the past. And until next time, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.